or new lows for this part of the cycle, and financial companies, bank stocks have been hammered in this past week, with some of these stocks down to levels that suggest possible nationalization of these banks. So how did we get here? I continue to believe that the reason we are at this point is that we have refused to change mark-to-market accounting. Instead, we are passing $800 billion stimulus bills and 75 or 275 billion, depending on how you look at it, bailouts of the housing sector. All of these are supposed to end the crisis, and yet every time one of these things is passed, the stock market and these banking stocks get hurt even worse. So what's going on? Why haven't we changed mark-to-market accounting? That's a question that I get all the time. It seems like a no-brainer, some of you say in your emails to me. It's a low-cost, in fact, no-cost way of relieving the pressure on the banking system. So what's going on? Well, first of all, FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, is made up of mostly accountants. There's a few other people on the boards as well, but mostly accountants. And remember, what accountants have in mind is to protect accountants. And the mark-to-market accounting rules are designed to keep accountants from making any judgment calls and therefore being liable for any problems that exist. No accounting firm wants to be Arthur Andersen. And one of the things that mark-to-market accounting does is allow them to pick market prices and say, see, that's what things are worth. But we live in an illiquid environment where market prices are well below the true cash flow value of the securities that are out there. This is driving capital down. It's chasing away private investors. It's harming our system. And to top it all off, it is causing the government, the Treasury Department, the new Obama administration, to keep going just like the Bush administration did, proposing hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars in fixes that are in no way going to save the system unless we change mark-to-market accounting. Now, the second reason given, in a sense, for not changing mark-to-market accounting, and by the way, the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, can call FASB anytime they want and ask them to suspend it, but many people at the SEC, in fact, many investors and analysts out there, believe that banks are just getting what due. They should have known. They knew mark-to-market accounting existed. They should have known this could happen, and so it's just too bad. Well, I kind of think of this like throwing your kid in timeout. I have young kids. Let's say I threw my young son into a timeout, and then the house caught on fire. Now, I'm going to go to the room and tell him, you're in timeout. You're stuck in your room for the next 30 minutes. We're all leaving because the house is on fire, but you should have known that when you got thrown in timeout that the house could have caught on fire, but you've got to pay your penalty. You've got to pay your half hour. Good luck. Can you imagine me doing that? That's insane. But that's what we're doing to these financial institutions today. In the middle of a fire, in the middle of one of the worst economic crises that we have seen in this country since the Great Depression, we are forcing banks to comply with an accounting rule that wipes out capital and makes the problem worse. And even for those who think it's all the right thing, one of the things that it's doing too is encouraging the spending, the growth of government by hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars, which is not a good outcome because that harms the economy when it comes back the other side. The final reason people give for supporting mark-to-market accounting is the idea that, in a sense, it doesn't really matter how low any of these prices go for securitized loan pools or for houses, because they can't go low enough. We were in a bubble, and this is it. We're just collapsing, and who knows how low it has to go, but houses are still overvalued, and too many loans were given, and too much leverage was put into place, and all of this has to get wiped out before we can fix what our problems are. And so in a sense, the people that have this forecast, this idea of where the economy is, they don't care what the prices are because they think it's going to get worse. And so in essence, they are the ones that are saying that these banks ought to mark to model. They ought to mark to their model, the disaster model, and it doesn't matter how low prices go, they still have to mark to that price. And now, what's interesting about this is that we haven't had the kind of disaster that they've said we are going to have yet. Yes, there are 25% of loans that are seriously delinquent or in foreclosure in subprime world, but 75% of them are still paying on time. Yet, at the same time, these assets are selling for 20 or 30 or 40 cents on the dollar, and they believe that's okay because eventually that's what they will be worth if you really let all the foreclosures play out. That's marking to model, in my opinion. Now, the only example that I can give you, and the best example, in a sense, that shows how this could work the other way is the 1980s and 1990s. We had Latin American loans, oil loans, and S&Ls. $1 trillion of bank assets eventually failed in the 1980s and 1990s. However, because we did not have mark-to-market accounting, we didn't force those 15, 16 years of losses down banks' throats in just 12 months. We let time play out. Some of the loans turned out to be good. And thank goodness, because they would have had to mark them down to pennies or cents on the dollar. Instead, they ended up being worth 100 cents on the dollar. And time allowed that to happen. What's interesting here is a bad loan is still a bad loan. You can't hide from it. Not having mark-to-market accounting doesn't allow you to hide bad loans under the rugs. They still are bad loans. So the thing about mark-to-market accounting today, to switch back, is that we are taking 15 years of potential losses and we are jamming them down financial institutions' throats in just 12 months. No wonder we are having such a financial market catastrophe. We need to allow time for our system to heal. There's definitely been bad loans out there, but we aren't providing that time. Mark-to-market accounting is the reason. Suspending it is the cheapest way to fix our problems immediately. So I urge all of you that are watching this to call your congressman, call your senators, call the Securities and Exchange Commission, and tell them that we need to change this rule